What is going on, guys? Welcome to Test This Tech, and today I wanted to talk about the RG36S running the Dirty Waves M8 Headless. Um, so just to kind of give a step back here as far as for what all of that means and what it is. So the M8 Headless is a very powerful software. There's this device called the Dirty Wave M8, which basically it's a music making device. It uses a tracker type music device, like software, very similar to the Polygon tracker. It's very much a hammer and chisel type of music creation. You're building up really very specific components of the music, such as like the drums, hi-hats, kicks, and all that stuff, kind of building this entire thing. But the M8 software is very powerful. And the neat thing about it, because the downside was that the Dirty Wave M8 device, they're very hard to come by, and they're like $700. But the creator actually allowed the software to be available to download and utilize on other devices, which is great. So that's where this comes in. Devices like this that usually play old school games and whatnot, a lot of these have compatibilities to actually run that software. And there's a bunch of videos on YouTube of people making really dope stuff. And I wanted to kind of share my experience with that to see if, just so I can tell you guys if it really is worth it to you or not. Okay. So, I will be honest with you. If you want just kind of a plug and play situation, 9 times out of 10, that's not going to be your experience. I worked on this for hours, literal hours, trying to find the ROMs that are going to be, or the image files that are going to be compatible with this. Some are older than others. Some videos, and it's not any of these creators' fault. It's like, hey, just install this and you'll be good. I would install it. I wasn't good. It wouldn't boot up. I'd have to dive into the internet to find various files. So it's very cumbersome when it comes to just running this. Unfortunately, it's much more difficult than it meets the eye when it comes to a lot of these YouTube videos online. Okay, some devices are more compatible with others. The 36S has more compatibility than others, but also there's a lot of inconsistencies with a lot of these updates for these different operating systems. So for example, this runs Linux, which is an operating system, and it runs a specific type of Linux, which is Arc OS, or it's one of them. And typically that is a good one to use for it. But however, some of these images online, what I mean is the software you download to burn onto this or to boot onto it, flash boot onto it. A lot of it is it'll miss certain things, or it'll have missing features. So for example, the original OS that I had on here, the Wi-Fi wouldn't work. Now, some people will say, well, Drill, there's no Wi-Fi in the R36S. You are correct. However, when I did use a dongle, it would show the Wi-Fi networks, but it would not connect because something to do with the kernel of the Linux software. A lot of deep diving, never really got it to work. However, there was one image file I did find. It was from Rocknix, and they had like a mod version of the image file, and that actually worked. The only downside is that the sound is a little weird coming out of this. There's a little bit of feedback. I'm not sure why that is. Well, I know why it is because this is $40. Um, but I think it's more of a software issue than an actual hardware issue. So I say that to say this. Is it worth it to do? Is it worth it to do for the R36S for these devices? I would say yes and no, leaning towards no. If you're someone who just wants to pick up and play, wants to check it out, no. It's not going to happen. You're probably going to have to buy it from somebody who has it pre-installed because you're going to get extremely frustrated. Now, on the contrary, the software is really powerful. It's a little intimidating to look at it firsthand, but I think it's worth learning and worth getting. Now, a part of this process, when you set this up, there's a microchip called the Teensy 4.1. That's the chip that the Dirty Wave M8 device that I mentioned earlier, the original device that was $700, That's the microchip within that. Okay. So that microchip is actually available separately. It's like $40 or $50 in some places. The price is actually going up on it. But it's a microchip, and that is what the M8 software is booted onto. And then you have to boot a client that shows the visuals onto your SD card into this. So you can actually see what the software, and can actually use it. The nice thing about the Teensy chip, though, is that you can actually connect it to a computer and go to m8.run, which is on Google. Typically, Google, I think, works best for it, and you can actually use it on a computer, right? So you don't have to lug this around and try to figure it out or whatever. You can use a whole keyboard. You can use a controller. I've seen people use controllers at the keyboard. So there's a lot of compatibility to this. And just to learn the software, I think it's absolutely worth it to get it for that. So what you would need for that, as far as for that specifically, you would need that microchip I mentioned, the TNC 4.1. You would need an micro SD card to go into that chip, and then you would need a data micro USB cable, a data micro USB cable. There are ones for charging, and there are ones that do charging and data, and there's data. Okay, so you can get the charging and data cable. I would just say get the data cable because it would just make more sense overall. Okay, if you're trying this out, you need to get an OTG cable, which is what you would plug from the micro USB cable. At the end, you have your regular USB end cable that you usually would see everywhere, but you would need to plug into an OTG adapter into this. So that's kind of the specific setup for this. But as you probably have thought about as I describe all of this nonsense to you, it is not plug and play. It is not plug and play. People on YouTube make it seem like it's very easy to do. It's not. There's a lot of things that aren't compatible with it. A lot of inconsistencies with a lot of these image files. You have to put on your SD card to load it. Some work, some do not. So if you are tech savvy, or if you are into IT or into coding or into technology in general, you might like this. This might be something for you just to learn to figure it out. But if you just want to make music and you don't want to get into the particulars, I don't recommend doing the devices. But I recommend buying the TNC chip to plug it into a computer or whatever it is and learn the software, because the software is extremely powerful. It's really impressively powerful for free. For free, right? It's just the chip you have to pay for it to run. So those are my thoughts there. I'm still digging into this M8 headless software on the device. So eventually I'll do a walkthrough video as far as for like how I make music on it, because I am still learning it. So just wanted to kind of preface that. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Also, if you know of any consistent, images for R36S, drop them in the comments too. I would love to learn to see if there's something where I can fix this or get this to run smoother, because it runs fine. It's just the audio is a little weird for the specific image that I have, and wouldn't mind getting a better thing burned on here so I can use it. So anyway, J Powell Music. Catch you guys next video. Thanks for watching.